This is gonna be my first YouTube video ever, pretty much. Besides that one that was before this, but you don't need to know about that. This video is kind of like a video essay, like I mean to do, except for like I wrote this pretty much a year ago for a college essay for a film class that I was doing. If this doesn't make sense, it's not my fault. It's past me's fault. But anyway, you already read the title to this video. It's a kind of a comparison to Daredevil and Knives Out. I don't remember why I did it, but I did. So here we go. The title of this is Mise en Scène and Symbolism in Daredevil and Knives Out. And I will kind of try to break down what I mean, because I haven't read this since like a year ago, so it might not make sense to me either. Knives Out and the television series Daredevil are fairly different on paper. One is a whodunit crime film, and the other is a superhero law drama. My computer is over here, by the way, so if I look off, that's why. While they have their differences, one thing for sure is that they excel in mise en scène, adding meaning to these labels of genre and creating symbolism through using certain methodology. Genre is something many of us see but don't necessarily know why certain movies or TV shows fit in those genres. We just see certain things and correlate them together. Like if we see a cowboy, we may automatically think, oh, this is going to be a Western. Why do we think this way? Mise en scene has a big part in either subtly or not showing us what sort of genre we may be watching. It gives us clues through elements of costuming, lighting, and more. Also, did I mention this is almost 3,000 words? Someone's texting me. Through lighting, one can convey the emotion and the intensity of a situation. The example I give in this one is Daredevil. Notable examples of emotion through lighting are in the show's various hallway and fight scenes. Now, I don't know if getting too in depth with this is gonna violate SAG or WGA rules, but I'll need to do more research on that because I do talk about specific scenes. But in the second episode of Daredevil's first season, Cutman, that one scene that we all know, you know, the hero, which the title gets its name from, is seen fighting his way through a hallway that is lit in yellow, which makes the show seems to have a bluish or unsaturated filter on it. And I don't know if this is true. This is just something that I've noticed compared to a lot of other TV shows that I watch. Also, considering most scenes are either inside or at night. So, yellow usually registers to most as a warning color. It's used in the radioactive symbols? It's used in radioactive symbols among many other types of warning labels. This could serve as a warning to Daredevil's opponents in this scene, especially seeing as they don't realize that he's there until. The yellow light could also serve as a warning for the hero himself. This paragraph is long. Through this entire scene, Matt is struggling to keep fighting, taking deep breaths and stumbling in between defeating enemies. Near the end of the scene, Matt opens a door to a room that is lit in red where a little boy is being held. Red could mean a lot of things, but in the context of the show, it's kind of a good color because that's what Daredevil is. Like his costume, But particularly in this scene, this is my interpretation, obviously, it means both fear and compassion. Fear is for the little boy who fears being taken away from his father. But Matt, although battered and beaten, feels compassion for the little boy. He didn't just fight all those goons for nothing. I mean, besides that one other scene where he says he likes it, but that's a whole nother story. In season 2, episode 3, titled New York's Finest, Daredevil is seen fighting in yet another alleyway, because, hallway fighting scenes are just like it for him, I guess. Daredevil is seen fighting in yet another hallway that is now lit in white. Although, Daredevil is breaking the lights, which start to make some flicker and create this air of urgency for his enemies. With each few feet Daredevil travels, he knocks out another light, which covers him in darkness, to possibly be seen as a menace or make him look more dangerous to the others in this scene, like to his combatants. For the last portion of the scene, it is filmed in a slowly flashing red light, which could signify just how much Matt Murdock is slowly turning into Frank Castle. At this point in the show, we've seen Frank Castle and what he can do, and we know that Matt Murdock is slowly kind of descending into madness just a little bit, until Foggy and Karen grab him and they're like, no. Most lighting in any sort of film media is meaningful, especially with particularly emotional scenes. With Daredevil, they seem to be able to heighten the intensity of those emotions with their symbolization of the colors they choose to light their scenes with, or just how they use lighting in general. Because, lighting and color of lighting means so much, okay? And this is where I rave about Knives Out for like 5 hours for me. Because if you don't know, Knives Out and Glass Onion are some of my favorite movies ever, pretty much. My letterboxd is also probably going to be in the description, so you could literally see my favorites. I got a Glass Onion tattoo. Editing, Andrea, put something over here. Put it over here. The costuming in Knives Out gives an implication of the personality and background of each character shown throughout the movie. And I'm going to be talking about Benoit specifically because he's my fave. One of the first characters we are introduced to in the first film, well, not first film, but Knives Out, the film, is Benoit Blanc, the head detective concerning the possible murder of Christopher Plummer's character, Harlan Thrombey. He is usually seen wearing a tweed suit, some sort of patterned tie, and a button-up shirt that is never quite white or simply not white at all. At first look, Benoit gives off the typical vibe of a detective. But by looking closer, one can tell he has a lot of elements of the typical Southern gentleman, which is what Daniel Craig plays. Well, he plays into that, obviously. This leads him to being more colorful than the other characters, possibly minus Linda, because she literally wears pink in like the first half of this film. With all the ties he appears in being some sort of floral pattern, and his glasses, which are thin and seem to be able to darken in the sunlight, are bright orange. And I just have to point out that I didn't point this out in the paper. That is a dad thing. To have, like, glasses that turn into sunglasses as soon as you step outside. He's a dad. Like, he is dad-coded. His clothes generally are more rumpled and not as streamlined as the wealthier characters shown. This could signify them possibly being more well-loved, or that he wasn't that wealthy himself, and that he's had these clothes for a while. I'm gonna put my thing in here so I can, like, scroll, because I forgot to do that. And I don't want to refilm this. Concerning Benoit's glasses, perhaps he picked them out of functionality. Benoit Blanc clearly has a touch for the eccentric, but still knows how to dress himself properly in a professional setting. The detective story is something we've seen many times with many iterations, but the character design has gotten much more stale in recent years within the last few decades. I'm talking about Sherlock Holmes in Sherlock, okay? And I honestly really don't know of any other detectives in like film right now. They usually just wear suits that are bland and gray, and I don't like it. Benoit Blanc is a welcome change. The main character of Knives Out, Marta Cabrera. You could argue that Benoit and Marta are the main characters, but I don't know. Marta Cabrera is seen to be dressed much more casually in most settings she's in. Marta is usually seen wearing some sort of sweater and jeans that are ripped or have threads out of place. And it's not surprising given that throughout the movie we're shown that she is less fortunate than the Thrombies. Her economic class comes through with what she wears. Her scarf looks to be handmade, with mismatched yarn used, and Marta can be seen with it in almost every scene she's in, showing that it's something that she appreciates and treasures in a way. In a way, she does. This could mean it's important to her, possibly, in my mind, made by her mother. Another thing to point out is Marta's shoes. Shown near the beginning of the film, Marta has a few drops of Harlan's blood on her shoes, which Benoit confessed to be something he noticed when they first met, and is something Marta didn't notice until he pointed it out. Her shoes are worn out, showing she seems. Why do I sound like that? Her shoes are worn out, showing she seems to only wear those and didn't think to check if there was anything on them. Her shoes that are worn out, comma, showing she seems to only wear those and didn't think to check if there was anything on them, are not only a part of who Marta is, but also are used as a plot device, as we see throughout the film, slash when Benoit finally confesses what he saw. The different settings in Knives Out show how rich and privileged the Thrombies are compared to Marta and her family. During the entire first scene of the film, we don't really see much of Harlan's room where he is found dead. We can only really see his body and the fact that there are a bunch of warm colors and books, but we don't see much else depth or importance of items until the sequence in which Marta remembers what happened to Harlan. From this scene, one can tell Harlan is a maximalist. That's just true. There are hundreds of books on shelves, small tapestries of animals on the arch behind him, lamps that look as if they're dripping with light, unintelligible notes on his walls, along with posters and 19th century drawings. A few old clown-like statues, which, why? And, as the title of the film, a few knives on the desk off to the side. Now, I specifically had to look up pictures of this room, because I don't really remember it. But yeah, it definitely looks like that. Now, it is never shown if Harlan has a typewriter or anything there, but it could be inferred that this is where he wrote most of his books. Now, not everyone who is a maximalist or simply messy must be rich, but it certainly helps when you have the money to spend to be able to buy such things. While this room is not necessarily elegant, as one may assume someone with the riches Harlan has, it still screams wealthy regarding not only its decor, but also the architecture, like the arches and the little book nook. There are arches and panels of different colors of wood on the walls in this relatively small room. So it's pretty much why? This is a small room, why would it be decorated like that? And why would it have architectural stuff like arches in it? While the Thromby's house has a lot of rooms, Marta's apartment can barely hold her mother, and her sister. We only see Marta's apartment for a few scenes, but from one particular scene, we can see how poor she is. Most of the appliances she has are old, and the cabinets seem to be slightly dirty. This apartment looks much more lived in than Thromby's home, though. Props in both Knives Out and Daredevil play an important role in the story taking place in each scene that they're in, as well as being symbols for the characters that they may be attached to. In Knives Out, knives are obviously seen throughout the film. The main centerpiece of knives we see in the living room comes back into play at the end of the film when Ransom is finally convicted. The knives in this film symbolize truth, or in the scene where the cops are questioning the family, that it could mean that not the whole truth is being told. Which is something, I feel like everyone kind of knows, or at least a lot of people have talked about. But this was an essay for a class, so. Throughout that scene, it is shown that each account of the family member does not exactly fit with the others. This implication is reinforced by the fact that each family member is being filmed off to the side of the centerpiece. They are telling a skewed truth, leaving out some information for the benefit of themselves or outright lying during certain questions. While each portrait of Harlan is fake, I know about this because it was revealed that during filming, none of the paintings were ready yet, so they had to just cut out green screen in the picture frame and put it in later, in post production. In the film, the portrait changes from the more neutral and almost intimidating face of Harlan to an affirming smile once his murder is solved. This version of the portrait is the one staring at Marta when she is all alone, alluding to their close friendly relationship. During the entirety of Daredevil's run, the deep red tinted glasses that Matt Murdock wears are integral to his character. And let me go find mine. Yes, I did just buy these. They are similar to the mask he wears as Daredevil. They add a level of distance between him and the people finding out who he really is. Yet at the same time, the glasses are connected to Matt Murdock much more than they are to Daredevil. They symbolize his humanity and that he still has flaws, even if he has heightened senses. In season 3 of Daredevil, Matt ditches those red tinted glasses for a pair of black sunglasses. He abandons himself in a way. He wishes to be Daredevil full time and to completely get rid of the man he is as Matt Murdock. In his own words, he would rather die as the devil than live as Matt Murdock, which, season 3 was heavy. When Matt finds his humanity again with the help of Foggy Nelson and Karen Page, his two friends, the red glasses appear again. In a way, he's been reborn, he's restored his faith, and the glasses subtly show that to the audience. In Daredevil, the actors' performances are important for the audience to convey emotion, urgency, and even give a glimpse into the character's personality. Some even play into the archetype assigned to their character. Now, I'm going to reference something that I feel like a lot of people know as well, especially if you really like Daredevil and you follow Charlie Cox as an actor. Charlie Cox, who plays the main character of Daredevil, or Matt Murdock, is another English actor who embodies the traits of Daredevil so well that most audience members can't imagine anyone else playing the character. Why I said another English actor, it's because a lot of Marvel actors are actually from England, I guess. We got Tom Holland and Tom Hiddleston, Benedict Cumberbatch. He almost makes Daredevil and Matt Murdock completely different characters. As the running thread throughout the seasons is how does someone manage having these different sides to them? He is the man burdened with heightened senses and feels as if he has no other choice but to help those he hears screaming in the night on the streets of Hell's Kitchen, which is a real place that I didn't realize was real until a year ago. I'm not gonna lie. Almost for a moment, you believe Cox is a blind man. But then you realize a blind man most likely could not do the things that he does. In fact, Charlie Cox has played Matt Murdock so well and for so long that in some recent auditions, it is rumored that he acted as if he was still playing the part. When, he was obviously not auditioning for Matt Murdock, not looking at props or not looking directly at co-stars. One may know Eldon Henson for being in the Hunger Games film series when he plays a deaf man looking for freedom from the Capitol. In Daredevil, Henson plays Matt Murdock's best friend, Foggy Nelson. He is the friend who's almost too concerned for Matt, not wanting to abandon him after everything he's been through. This sort of feeling is very apparent to the audience because Henson's emotions are very plain to see, especially in the episode Nelson vs. Murdock, where Foggy finally learns of Matt's nightlife while flipping from flashback after flashback to present day. Sure, some of it is written in an emotional way, specifically written that way, but Henson's acting makes us feel just how much Matt broke Foggy's trust. We as an audience can't necessarily pick a side because they're both right in how they feel. And as a note, I don't know if I took this out when I actually turned it in, but in parentheses I said I personally cried during this scene, which I did. A little embarrassing, but true. Both Daredevil and Knives Out seem to be very generic media in their respective genre before watching them. But after, one realizes that they're not. Both tap into different genres when it's best suited for the sake of the media text. At first glance, Knives Out is a whodunit that is very reminiscent of Agatha Christie novels, but as one begins watching the movie and is revealed Marta could have killed Harlan, it turns into a crime story. How is she gonna get away with this? Especially with the weird aversion she has towards lying. As more and more is revealed, the genre flips again near the end into a detective story as Benoit Blanc reveals the perpetrator is Ransom Thrombey. The switch is made when Benoit stands up for Marta in front of the family and starts to recount the evidence of who the real murderer is as he sits completely centered in front of the centerpiece made of knives. Benoit tells the truth, entire, unadulterated truth. Something Marta herself didn't completely know. The way Knives Out plays with its genre is subtle, yet adds to the film to make it better as a whole. In Daredevil, this sort of genre switching from superhero to law genre is very apparent in its scenes. Sometimes it will switch from Daredevil fighting crime to Matt Murdock in the middle of being in court. Like that one scene that I can't remember, but I remember it. It might have been in The Defenders, I'm not 100% sure. The central idea of Matt Murdock is that he could fight with the law for the rights of people, and then he can use Daredevil when the law fails. AKA something that he talks about with what is her name? I'm just gonna call her She-Hulk. But in She-Hulk, this is something that Matt talks about with She-Hulk because, he's experienced and, She-Hulk is new. So it's kind of like advice. There is also this moral dilemma inside him as well. Is this the right thing to do? Is he helping anyone? Can he keep doing this? Most superhero shows at the time of Daredevil's release did not exactly show the internal why can't I say this word? Most superhero shows at the time of Daredevil's release did not exactly show the internal turmoil of actually fighting crime. So this was refreshing in that sort of sense. It can be hard to keep a secret identity a secret, especially when a person like Matt Murdock has people that are so close to him that think they know everything about him. They believe when he says that he ran into a pole on the way home. Because a blind man can't be fighting crime in Hell's Kitchen, can they? Right? Probably not. The film Knives Out and the television series Daredevil are vastly different in all aspects of how they were made, who they were meant for, and even what media deals with. How the fuck did I write this? The film Knives Out and the television series Daredevil are vastly different in all aspects of how they were made, who they were meant for, and even what media deals with in terms of societal problems, but both create meaning and symbolism through their respective mise-en-scène. With its 2-hour and 15-minute runtime, Knives Out switches genres twice, has a running theme of truth, and tells a tale of each character's economic class through its costuming, prompts, and the setting that they're in. In the original Daredevil Netflix series, prompts are integral to each character attached to them. Performance fills in gaps of characters' personality, lighting helps to build emotion, and its genre helps to create the moral issues plaguing each character throughout the series. I really don't know why I put those two together. I think it's just because I was really obsessed with them at the time. Not to say that I don't like any of their shows anymore, but they were on my mind 24/7. And if my professor sees this, which I doubt, this was my rough draft. So if what you read changed from what I read here, we don't talk about that. Alright, we don't talk about it. Thank you for watching. I know I was looking over here most of the time, but, I have limited desk space.